Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Jukebox Junkies, a podcast where we discuss music, entertainment, and pop culture moments. On today's episode, we are going to take a step back and really introduce ourselves to you. Chelsey and I have both put together a list of our musical influences and what inspired us to get into the music industry. So, without further ado, how are you, Chelsey?
I'm great, Dylan. How are you?
I am fantastic. I really hope that everyone has enjoyed our podcast so far. I had a little bit of hiccups last week trying to put together the whole thing, but got some of it out, and I think I might just move on to the next part.
Right. Things happen. You live, you learn.
It just because we were off. So if you guys don't know, Chelsey and I are both music business majors at Full Sail University. That's how we met. Because of Thanksgiving last week, we didn't have class for most of last week, we didn't have class or assignments or anything. So I had extra time on my hands. So I took our episode 2 podcast, did a whole production with moving elements and video and music and pictures and all sorts of stuff and uploaded it, and it was blocked for copyright.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to reroute everything a little bit and redo it, and that took a lot of work.
I'm so thankful that I have somebody like you that's willing to work hard because
Yeah, it was a lot. But I want to know, and if any of our listeners know, how do other YouTubers post like music reviews and stuff like that online without getting copyright claims? Because I uploaded stuff without music, just video, and it was still getting claimed.
Right. And I mean, some of those smaller level channels probably don't have the money to pay for clearance. So,
Exactly. So I'm going to have to do research. So if anyone knows, saves me some time from doing research, that'd be greatly appreciated.
please share. Comments below.
Okay, but yeah, so we really just wanted to really introduce ourselves to you because I was thinking when I was just kind of brainstorming about what our next topic could be, I realized we kind of took right off with talking about the Grammys, and we didn't really give you guys a real sense of our music taste and who we are and stuff like that. So I wanted to just kind of take a step back and reintroduce ourselves to you in a more laid back way where we just kind of talk about our favorite music, what inspired us to get into the industry, and things of that nature.
For sure.
So, Chelsey, what do you want to start off talking about? Whatever it is you want to start talking about first.
Okay. Well, kind of at the top of my list is like earliest influences. Um, so in my life, that was definitely my mom and dad. Like we were a music household. I grew up on old school rock and roll, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Nirvana, all of those guys. And beyond that, I would say my cousin Becky, she was a Christian artist, and I can remember her she put out a couple of albums, and I was
Oh
just super
wow!
proud to have, an artist in the family like that. So I remember being about 13, and my friend Brittany and we used to like record demos like on cassettes. That's how long ago this was. And
Wow!
and we would record our little demos on the cassettes, and I never did send them to her, but I always said I was going to.
Right.
And then, of course, my uncle Jimmy, he's been a big influence on my life, like altogether. Overall, he's inspired my love of music and travel and inspired me to be who I want to be, regardless of what other people think. He's a really great dude, but he went to Connecticut for a few years and was gonna trying to do Broadway, and he was traveling back and forth to New York, and I was maybe 7 or 10 when he was doing this. And I just remember looking up to him so much, being like, hey, he's living the showbiz life. Little did I know it wasn't very glamorous for him in those years, but he did go up there and he enjoyed it and experienced it. And I think that's one thing that's always been in the back of my head. And I've
Wow.
always loved to sing. I've been a singer forever, probably as long as I could talk.
Right.
So what about you? What are some of your earliest like influences?
So what's kind of cool about listening to like this little bit of the story you just told is my story is very different. Like I don't really I don't know where my love for music and entertainment really comes from. It's just ever since I was a little kid, literally like basically like how you said, since I could talk, um, I was always concerned about what was playing on the radio when I was in the car. I always wanted to know what that song was, what the artist was. I wanted to know their story, stuff like that. I remember my mom telling me, even when I was just a little kid, I would ask her to turn on um, the radio, and I didn't even care what it was. I just wanted music playing so I could like analyze it. Like it was more than just listening and enjoying it. It was like a whole analysis that was going on in my head of the whole song the whole time.
See, I guess I wasn't an analyzer by any means. The closest I got to that was my mom quizzing me on, is this Guns N' Roses? Is this Aerosmith? Is this AC/DC? And then she would give me like a disappointed look if I didn't know. And I'm like, Mom, I'm 6. What do you mean? But my love kind of started as a performer.
Right. So my older sister, she is like I think I mentioned to you right before we started recording. She's also works in the entertainment industry. Like she used to always talk about how she wanted to win a Grammy and all this stuff. And as she grew up, she got more into video and film than music. So like right now, she works on a military base as a video producer. And so
Cool.
so she's much more in the film world than the music world. But like I remember growing up, one of my earliest influences, even though like music's always been like just part of me, um, was American Idol. So I remember sitting and watching season, was it season 6? The season that Jordan Sparks won.
Okay.
So that was the first season of American Idol I sat down and watched. And it was always my older sister, Christina, and I. We sat down and we watched it, but we like were obsessed with it. We kept notebooks filled with notes from the show, like everything that happened. Um, and so I accredit a lot of my early uh, inspiration to music to Simon Cowell, wanting to be him because
Dude, same.
he
Simon's
wasn't an
on my
artist.
list.
Is he? Yeah,
Yes.
he on my list. Well, I just started writing down. I didn't really write down like specific things. I just wrote down a list of songs and artists and people I wanted to talk about. Simon Cowell was the second one I wrote down. he he just I just wanted to be him because I was like, he's not a singer, so why is he here?
Because of his ear, do you know he didn't graduate high school? Like,
I think I did know that. I read
and he started in the mailroom
really.
at some record label in London. Like, he quit school at like 16, went to London, got a job in the mailroom, and then worked his way up from there.
Yeah, I when I was in high school, I think I was a freshman in high school, we had to do a biography project on any celebrity we could find as long as they had a biography and autobiography written about them. And I did it on Simon Cowell. So I bought a Simon Cowell book and I read the whole thing and had to do a presentation of him. But that was like 10 years ago now,
Right.
so I don't even remember.
Right. Like, I sort of remember, but
But yeah, so and other than Simon Cowell, so just going to like actual like music and artists that inspired me, I went through before I really discovered mainstream pop music and fell in love with it, which is still like my biggest love in the world. I went through phases of different kinds of music that I loved, and in like 2006, 2007, so I was a young kid. That was before I was 10 years old. I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was obsessed with country. Anything country music, I was obsessed with it.
can I tell you a secret? I met Leanne Rimes when I was like 6, and she was like 16 on her first album tour.
That is insane. That is so cool. Because there's a song I have written down on my list that it was a Leanne Rimes song called Nothing Better to Do.
Nothing better to do.
Yeah. There was something about that song that I just loved. It was so because it was country, but it was like bluesy. And it was
Yes.
one of the first songs that I remember being like, well, this is more than just one genre. Like they can do that. Like and it was like an epiphany. Like I was like, whoa, this isn't even real country. Like it is, but it's more than that. But yeah, like, and then that's when my love for Taylor Swift started, and I have Taylor Swift written down in 3 different sections of my paper, so we will definitely talk a lot about her. At least I will. But like, I remember Carrie Underwood. I was huge fan of Kenny Chesney. Like any of those artists in like 2006, 2007 that ruled country, they ruled my life.
Right.
And then somehow I moved from country into full-fledged Disney.
Oh,
So
well,
like
everybody has their Disney phase.
I
I even
I
had a
know.
Disney phase.
So like anything High School Musical and Camp Rock,
Yes.
and then like Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, I was obsessed. But yeah, like I knew every song to High School Musical. Although this it tells you how short this phase was. Like I went from country 100% to Disney 100%, but I never even saw High School Musical 3.
Oh, I've never seen it either.
Yeah, so that's how, like, I don't know how many, the span of how many years the first High School Musical to the third one came out, but that's how short that Disney
Oh,
phase was.
speaking of, have you ever seen Vanessa Hudgens and Ashley Tisdale do the cover of X's and O's on YouTube?
I believe that came out like a couple years ago,
Yeah,
right?
it's old,
Yeah,
but it's one of my favorites, like,
yeah.
ever.
I do remember watching it. I don't like remember what it sounded like. I think I only watched it
Oh.
once, but yes, I've definitely seen that before.
So everybody does go through like phases, though, you know?
Right,
I grew up with in the era of Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and the Backstreet Boys and everybody. So
right.
pop music has really, really, really always had my heart. But in high school, I moved and I was surrounded by different cultures. So I started listening to hip hop like a lot. And that's really when I gained my love for hip hop in my high school years. So
Right.
2008, 2009. And then after that, about 2010, I moved into like indie music. Metric was my favorite back then. That's how I
Yeah.
met Florence and the Machine. So, I think we all just go through phases like that.
Yeah.
Like now I'm heavily into dance.
Right. Yes. So that the crazy thing about that is, so it was 2009. Like that to me is the like one of the most important years of music to my personal life, because that was the year where I that was the year of Lady Gaga and the Black Eyed Peas and
Yes.
Taylor Swift and Kings of Leon and David Guetta, and it really like Beyonce, like Single Ladies, and that was the year that I realized that pop music was like basically like my favorite thing in the world, and since then I haven't really gone through phases. It's been mainstream pop music. I mean, I have like different artists and stuff that aren't mainstream that I listen to, but like I'm constantly looking at the Billboard Hot 100. I probably know just about every song on the Billboard Hot 100 at any given week. Like I make myself know it all.
I guess because I have gone through so many phases, I still kind of try to keep up with all genres. Like I'm very like I don't have to stick to the top 40, but I still do love the top 40 if that makes
Right.
sense, you know.
Yeah, like a lot of times at the end of the year, my favorite song will be one of the songs that was also huge, and most people would be like, "Oh, that's such a cop out." Like one of my best friends told me not long ago, she's like, "Dylan, no offense, but with you being like a music business major and being in music, I thought you'd have better music taste, but my music taste is what's popular." And I think a lot of it's because I analyze it. It's more than just liking it. Especially now, like studying like music marketing and promotions and stuff like that, I study all of that, and it's more than just music to me.
I also see, I guess I do study and analyze, but I like to study and analyze the new guys. Like I like to know the music 6 months before it hits the radio.
Yeah.
I like to be the one where they're like, "Oh, honey, you knew this. You've been playing this for me, and now it's on the radio." Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I remember. So my older sister Christina she's in the military, and she had gone to Lithuania for a few months. She was deployed there for something, and she came back and she was like, "Dylan, I have to show you this new song. It's huge over there. It's great. Like I don't. It probably will never be popular over here, but I think you're gonna like it." Guess what that song was?
uh,
Royals by Lord. But this was months before it blew up over
right,
here.
right.
So I was listening to it. I loved it, and then I vividly remember being in the car going somewhere, and I was listening to Sirius XM Hits 1, which is, side note, my favorite radio station. And that song came on and I freaked the hell out. I could not believe it.
Well, that's like the first time I heard any stateside radio stations play Ellie Goulding. And
Yeah,
Lights was her first big hit over here, and I was super surprised because I love Starry Eyed, but you know.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of cool. I have a similar story. Do you remember the band Neon Trees?
Yes.
Yeah, so one of my good friends when I was in middle school, his brother was roommates in college with Tyler Glenn, who is the lead singer of Neon Trees.
Cool.
So like they were friends and everything, and even back in middle school, I loved music, obviously. So he was over at my house one day, and he was telling me, he's like, my brother, um his roommate has this awesome band. They have a really cool song out right now. He pulled it up on YouTube. The song had 13 views, and it was Animal by Neon Trees, and it
Yeah.
had already been out for a few months. So it's kind of a similar story to the one I just told with Royals, that literally I was listening to that song for a year before I heard it on the radio, and then it blew up. Then Neon Trees, uh, like everyone knows Neon Trees, even today, even though they haven't really had a hit in like 5 years or so, like everyone knows Neon
Oh
Trees.
yeah, for sure.
So it's just kind of cool. So it was all those kind of moments that really just blew my mind and made me fall more and more in love with music. So, who is your all-time favorite artist? If you had to choose one, if I put you in the spot right now and said you had to choose one artist, who would you choose?
There's only one correct answer. Florence Welch of Florence and the Machine.
Yes, and for me, it is Taylor Swift. So, because I'm curious too, so explain your like why you love Florence so much, how you came about her music, and just kind of that story, if there is one.
There's definitely one. I don't know if we have time for the whole thing. Okay, but so like short story, I when I was 17, 18, 19, I was really going through this period where I was really struggling trying to find who I was and like what I wanted my future to be because I was out of school. Like I had done a few classes towards journalism and I thought about business, but I wasn't sure that I was, you know, a businesswoman. And so I started my first restaurant job ever. And it was a little privately owned restaurant. We had Japanese food and other Asian cuisines. And the people I met there really changed my life. And one day I was just bebopping along at work and I'm singing along to this song. And this is really honestly how it got started. My friend said, well, you know, you kind of look like her. And I was like
Hmm.
who? And he goes, the girl singing this song, Florence Welch of Florence and the Machine. And at the time I was a lot skinnier than I am now. So my cheekbones were a little more defined. So I guess I could see it in a way, but not really.
Right.
But I knew I was listening to You Got the Love. And I knew I loved that song. So I went home that night and I looked her up and I listened to the rest of Lungs because that was the only album she had out.
Right.
And so from then on I was on board and I actually went to see her in 2012 in Tampa on the Ceremonials tour. And in that moment, like just seeing her live, she had my heart. And her vocals are just so good and like I don't know, the vocals for me honestly, but also her metaphorical lyric style. That's what I really love.
Yeah.
And she between her and the people that I met at Fusion, it really helped kind of change my mindset and my lifestyle, and it kind of helped push me towards where I actually am today. And you know, sometimes your favorite artist can get you through a lot of things. Like Ceremonials got
Yeah.
me through the death of my aunt, and Big Blue Beautiful got me through, you know, some of the best parts of my life. I actually used
Yeah.
a song from that Heartlines as the theme for my wedding. So,
Oh,
you know,
that's
it's
awesome.
just it was also a moment where I was reminded that good music still existed today and it wasn't all just pop, you
Right.
know. Because I do love pop, but we also still need people like the Stones and Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac and you know, just people that make good music.
Yeah. So, kind of off topic a little bit. Um, how you just mentioned like those artists. I was talking to my dad the other day, and we were talking about what artists today that are really popular right now, like today on the charts, nominated for Grammys, whatever, who will they still be talking about in 20, 30 years? Who is our Stevie Nicks? Who is our Michael Jackson? Who is our Whitney Houston? Like, you know what I mean?
I
And
Go
I
ahead.
feel like it's hard to predict because you never really know who's going to stick the landing. They could feel like they're the biggest artist in the world right now, and they might not be anybody in 20 years.
I feel like that Florence will be on that list.
Yeah?
I do, simply because I mean, for one, she's already got a tribute album, and everybody's still alive in the band. That's unusual. People don't usually get tribute albums until they're passed on or retired.
Right.
And but also the cover of Ceremonials was just put into the Royal Portraits Museum in London.
Really?
Yes, and it's on there for display for all eternity. I mean,
It is Florence Welch British?
she is.
Okay.
She's from South
I thought
London.
so. Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't because I think I've told you before. I've listened to them, but I'm not very very familiar. Like I'm not super well versed in their music. I,
Right.
I I'm going to start now. You've definitely have me intrigued. So I'm probably if I was to go listen to one of their albums to really learn who they are, which one should I listen to?
How big, how blue, how beautiful.
How big? How blue? Bit? How? Wait, what? What was it?
How big, how blue, how beautiful.
Okay. I will listen to that hopefully this week and I will let you know what I think.
And I have lots of fun insights about the songs. So when you listen to them, just let me know which one you're on and I can be like, hey.
Perfect. Okay, we'll do. Okay, so my favorite artist of all time, and I already mentioned her a little bit, is Taylor Swift. So my story with Taylor Swift goes all the way back to when I was talking about how I was obsessed with country back in 2006, 2007. 2006 was the year Taylor Swift debuted, is when she had her first single, Tim McGraw, come out.
That was
And
actually the first digital download I ever purchased.
really,
Yeah.
that's cool. I have no idea what mine was. Yeah, so I remember I loved that song Tim McGraw. I thought I loved the tone of her voice. I liked the songwriting. And remember, in 2006, I was like 8 years old. So I was just a little kid. And but I remember just loving. I thought the music video was great. I thought the way she told that story was great. Like it was one of the first songs I vividly remember being able to completely visualize the story in my head and completely grasp the whole message of the song, the whole story behind it. And I remember my birthday that year, so whatever year that would have been, like 2007 probably. Um, my sisters, they always made fun of me because they're like, "You're a boy. Why do you like Taylor Swift?" But I didn't care.
Right.
Um, I remember they printed out this birthday card for me that they just made on like Microsoft Word, and they put the Taylor Swift album cover on it, her debut album, which was self-titled, and they were teasing me about it in like the birthday card or whatever. So I always like to remind them that I was obsessed with her from one song, and I could see her potential at 8 years old. And she went on to be named Artist of the Decade and one of the most successful artists of all time. But so from that, like her first couple songs, like I remember like the song Our Song and Picture the Burn and Teardrops in My Guitar, like all those songs from that first album, they were all so different. They all had a different sound and a different style to it. And I just remember being so fascinated that she could go from this slow love song to this really angry to this really cutesy song, like all within like one album. And those were her like first few singles.
Her first album will always be my favorite album.
Yeah. The,
Yes.
uh, I do love the first Taylor Swift album solely because of, I mean, it's great, obviously.
But I was a little bit older than you when it came out, and, like, some of
Right.
those songs had a different meaning to me than they probably did to you, and,
Right.
"Cold as You" is, like, one of my favorite songs
Mm.
of her of all time.
That was so good. Let's see. So then, just with every release, like I remember when the album Fearless came out, which was her second album, and she got huge, and I was starting to hear her songs on pop radio, and then I think the song "You Belong with Me" is
Yes.
I heard that on mainstream pop radio, and I was like, this is country, like what is it doing here? Because my brain, I was very genre segregated, like if this is country it goes to country, if it's pop it goes to pop, if it's rock it goes to rock, there better not be any crossover, because that was just how my brain worked when I was a kid. And I think that is what got me like, oh, so I can listen to this and still hear Taylor Swift on this radio station. And then I think that's what got me into regular music. But so aside from all that, and I promise I'll wrap up my Taylor rant in a minute.
Oh, you're
Um,
fine.
so aside from just all of that, just me genuinely loving her music, um, and this is a newer discovery of mine within the past 2 years, like being in broadcasting school, or not broadcasting school, in music business school, is a lot of the different topics we've covered in school, different classes we've had. I've gone to her music and her marketing strategies so much. She is a genius marketer. She is a genius businesswoman. And so I've studied her a lot with just in the past few years. Because I'm so fascinated with how she's able to market her music. Like,
she
do you
she
know much about her, like her marketing strategies?
I know what I've read that you've shared like on discussion posts and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I post about her a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and it's cool because I use Florence for a lot of stuff. I
Yeah.
completely understand.
Oh, yeah. You always use either Florence or Diplo.
Oh yeah, Diplo. Because honestly, to me, Florence takes a very like almost word of mouth marketing strategy. But
Yeah.
Diplo is just an all around genius. Like he built his label from the ground up, and I'm super proud. Like I
Yeah.
could go on and on.
Yeah. And like, what's cool with Taylor is every single thing she posts on social media, every single thing she does, down to the outfit she wears, the way she stands, the way her hair looks, anything she does is part of a promotion. And even if it's not, people would dive into it like it is, and they try to dissect it. And she puts these Easter eggs in every little thing, and she gets, I think, more than any other artist, really just gets people talking about
She does.
what's
I
coming.
remember, I guess it was when she was revamping for like is it Reputation with Black Bad
Yeah.
Blood and everything?
Well, Bad Blood was on 1989, but Reputation was
Was
the
the one that
really
had
dark.
everybody talking.
It was like, Look What You Made Me Do and Ready for It.
Yeah, so that's the one where there was all
Yeah,
black everywhere, I feel like,
yeah,
and everybody was like, "Why is she blacking everything out?" I remember
yeah.
that because I keep up with Taylor, and I mean, like I said, it's not like I don't like her music. I really do like her music. I listen to her a lot more than I care to admit. I don't really have it, and I shouldn't make stereotypes about the woman, but
Right. I mean, Taylor Swift she's become more than just. I mean, she's a whole brand.
she is.
And I mean, she's the most famous person of the past 10 years, so it's hard to compare her music without getting into the celebrity Taylor Swift.
Right.
What artists continue to inspire you? Like, what artists that are making music today, or like not just artists, but like events or people in your life or anything like that, who continues to inspire you to be in the music industry?
LA Reid is definitely a factor of me choosing to be in the music industry.
Yeah, I've heard you mention him before, which I think that's cool because I know about Ellie Reed and stuff, especially just I've studied him for different things in school. Um, I learned about him at first through the X Factor USA a couple years ago.
Well, I knew of him before then, but once I saw his presence on the X Factor and I realized, like, hey, like I already knew the man knew what he was doing, but the man really knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
And I mean, he's come up and down, and he's worked with artists like Bobby Brown and Outkast and Tony Braxton, TLC, 21 Savage, Young Jeezy, J Lo, Future, Fifth Harmony. Like, I mean, it just it
and didn't he sign Rihanna?
Oh,
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he was the one that originally signed Rihanna.
he could have, but I don't remember. But he works with a lot of artists, and he's not. While his focus is like hip hop, he doesn't necessarily confine himself to one genre, and that's what I like about him.
Right.
And plus, just like the struggles of going up and down, and he'll build one label up and then go leave it and go build another label up, and it's just, I don't know, his work ethic is amazing.
Is he? I know he's had a lot of allegations against him. Is he working at any record labels right now?
Oh yeah,
Do you know?
he is now working at Hitco Entertainment. Him and Babyface got back together, and because that was a label they had originally started back, I think, like in the late '90s, and
Okay.
nothing just ever panned of it. He ended up going to work somewhere else. LA did. I mean, they just kind of went and done their separate things, and so now they're back together at Hitco, and it's based out of Atlanta. And Dinah Jane is actually on there with them right now,
Oh, okay.
and they have a few other artists, and so they're at the very beginning stages, but that's what he's doing now.
Ooh, should we go down my Fifth Harmony rabbit hole?
I love Fifth Harmony. That I'm here for it.
Everyone in high school knew of my obsession with Fifth Harmony. So I remember watching, specifically for some reason, Allie Brooke and Lauren Haregi. I remember watching their auditions on the X Factor because, I mean, so if anyone doesn't know, Fifth Harmony was, they all auditioned for the X Factor USA as solo artists, and then they were all eliminated in boot camp round, which is kind of like the equivalent of the Hollywood Week and American Idol. And then they were put together as a group by Simon Cowell, Ellie Reed, Demi Lovato, and Britney Spears. So I remember like watching them, and my favorite immediately, like I remember after the auditions was it was a tie between Allie and Dinah, Allie Brooke and
Can I
Dinah
tell
Jane.
you what? Camila was my favorite from the jump,
Yeah,
for sure.
I didn't notice Camila until um
Anything could
oh
happen.
no, it was before that. It was at it's been so long since I've thought about the X Factor really. It was the judges house round. It was like
Oh
round
yeah.
3, and it was the first time Fifth Harmony performed together. And I remember I did not like them at all. Like I remember they got through at judges
I didn't
houses and
like
I was
they had to
pissed.
get it together, like it
Yeah.
took them a solid 4 or 5 weeks to really get their feel together, but once they did,
Hmm.
man, but I knew once I seen them all standing there together and I remembered their individual auditions, I'm like, those girls are fixing to take the world by storm.
Yeah, but and they like all throughout the competition, like you said, they were kind of the underdogs. No one, they were there and they always just kind of skated by. Like they were never the best of the night until they sang. Anything could happen, and like that was like top 5, I think. Like it was way late in the
It was
competition,
very late. Yes, it was.
and then I think that was the performance that completely changed their life.
Yep.
Like I genuinely believe that Fifth Harmony would not have become the super successful pop group that they were without that performance. And it was Ellie Goulding, so you were probably excited.
I love Ellie.
But yeah, so but by that point I was full fledged into their music because we talked about this on our last podcast. I love that journey of audition to mainstream huge success. Like I love watching that journey.
It's
And so
so sweet.
it was incredible to see like them be like most successful from that season of the X Factor and then have like Worth It and Work From
Cuz
Home and
wasn't Carly on
Sledgehammer.
that season?
Uh was that the season Carly won?
Yes. No,
Or
Carly didn't win. She came
she
in
got
second.
second. Yeah, behind the country dude.
Yeah, that released one single that I know of. But Carly's actually making her way back in the game. I'm sorry, this is a digression, but
No, it's a completely welcome digression. I haven't heard about her in a while.
and she's
I still
very
like
alt
her on
pop.
social media. You what?
She's very like alt pop.
Is she? That
Yes.
doesn't surprise me. Yeah, because B Miller was also
Hmm.
on that season.
But B finished like eighth, and I mean that girl's been
Yeah.
putting in work since then. I have so much respect for her.
Oh, I love B Miller. I saw my friends and I years ago went to a Fifth Harmony concert in Buffalo, New York, and B Miller opened for them. So I got to see
Aw.
B and Fifth Harmony in the same night.
Right after Fifth Harmony won, they opened for Demi Lovato, and I went and caught that show at Phillips
Oh, that's
Arena.
cool.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
I remember when they were opening for Demi.
I was literally running, like, I thought we were gonna be late because we had to find a parking spot. It was downtown Atlanta. So I'm running through the park and I'm like, "You guys better come on. I've got the tickets and I'm not missing Fifth Harmony."
Yeah. This and like still to this day, um, I love Camila Cabello and I love Normani. The other
Oh,
girls,
yes.
the other girls are good, but they're not. They haven't made as many moves, and they're not as.
They're not as hardworking. See, my thing is the whole them throwing Kamzy off the stage at the VMAs when they did that, that's
Oh,
low, because while y'all were partying for 4th of July, Kamzy was in the bathroom making her own beats.
yeah. And while you guys were throwing Camila off the stage to sing, I did not like Fifth Harmony after Camila left. Like that last album, I was not a fan of. And their single "Down," their first like
That's about
single
the only
after.
one I liked.
Really, I hate it.
Long as you
I shouldn't
always
say I hate it.
love.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I felt like it was Work from Home Part 2.
I did agree. I did say that too, though. Like it's very much work from home, but it's still cool.
And I don't understand. I mean, they got people talking about him, but why they had to throw that silhouette of a person off the stage at that award show was,
It was, but you know, it's showbiz. Everybody's got to throw their shade.
yeah. But
So, talking about people that kind of we get to see grow, there is a girl I met on Instagram. Her name's Triste, and we've been friends, gosh, like at least 5 years. And
hmm
I stumbled upon her because I saw this amazing harp cover she did of a Florence and the Machine song. And I was like, oh, you have my heart already, girl. And she was like 14 at the time and just amazing. Her vocals were on point. She could play several instruments. And so I've kept up with her. She's getting ready to release her first EP soon. And she's a person that I really would like to see succeed.
is she signed to a label?
She's not. She does have a like a manager.
Does she?
She's with Excel Talent out of Atlanta. So they kind of handle all of her business stuff. She was actually in talks with some people to sell some of her lyrics. I don't know
Ah,
how that panned out, but she's really cool. And I mean, honestly, we talk like every day. And when I graduate, I wouldn't mind trying to slide my resume up there to Excel so we could work together.
yeah, that's awesome. Because I was gonna say if she needs management.
Right. Well, I've already told her several times, like, because she's like, management's just taking so long on getting my songs out, and I'm like, hey, girl, you know that's what I'm studying to do.
I was gonna say, get her into Green Wave Entertainment, and you and I could tag team, and
Right.
we got you.
So, but fun fact, Excel that she's with, they represent Ditto, the
Okay,
dancer. So,
very nice.
but Tris actually inspired me to start playing instruments again. I had always played the piano a little bit, but that's when I decided I wanted to learn the guitar and maybe start doing a few Instagram videos myself.
Yeah,
It was a long process, really, for me to decide that I was going to work in the business side of things. I always did have sort of a performer's mindset. You know,
yeah.
one of my old bosses, Tommy Holloway, we met in 2012, and there was an X Factor audition here in my town. And if you won this X Factor audition, you would go straight through the line and you would go straight to the producers.
hmm
So I was debating on whether or not to try out. And Tommy's like, listen, if that's what you want to do, go for it. You're not going to get another chance in life. Just do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and then I started performing a little bit in town. I did a couple of bigger shows at Cultural Arts Center here. They have a Wiregrass Talent Quest every year, and I eventually made it to the Civic Center round. But the more I thought about it, and the more that I saw the talent that was here, I was like, man, I'm not that marketable. I write cheesy
Right.
pop songs, and I'm a little peachy, and my jaw's too square. I don't have the symmetry, and sometimes you just have to realize these things about yourself. So I really had, with all of these shows and stuff I had been doing around town, I was really exposed to all of this talent that just, they don't have the means or the people that would build the network to really help get them out there.
Right. Or even like the knowledge of how to do something like
Exactly.
that.
So, and I had been for a long time. I even spent 2 years, thinking about music production. I kind of self-taught myself how to do a little bit of audio production. I can make a little
Yeah.
beat, but has a very EDM sound.
Yeah.
But so, and I picked up a few books when I was doing that at the library about the industry to just kind of learn and read. And I don't know. I worked with a local rap artist here, a friend of mine. His name is Josh Berry, and his show name was Concrete. And we used to go out every Wednesday, and they would do these rap battles, and
Oh, that's
I was
cool.
kind of like his promotions team. And so the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, well, maybe I can still be in the industry, but on the backside of it.
Right.
Because there's all kinds of places that I've realized I would fit in. My original goal was A&R, and then I really started thinking about like maybe even music supervision or working in sync licensing. But I've kind of ended up on social media marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, so I decided, like right out of high school, um, I went to a school in Charlotte called the Carolina School of Broadcasting. And so there I learned, I mean, we did TV and radio, obviously. It was all broadcasting. And then we did social media and stuff like that too. Um, and we had to do a 300-hour internship. And at that time, our school was getting a new program director for the radio station. And so she came in and she wanted to completely revamp the radio station, but she needed someone who was a little bit more into mainstream music than she was. She had worked mainly in urban and hip hop music. So I was like, hey, I know a lot about that. And I like radio a lot. And so I ended up working with her. Her name was Terry Avery. She now is a program director for a R&B, contemporary R&B station in Atlanta. I mean, she's worked with Beyonce and she has a Janet Jackson plaque. Like, she's worked with really big names. It was so cool
Wow.
to even like, yeah.
To even
So
be in
like,
the same room with you.
exactly. And like, we were friends. Like, we talked all the time. Like, every morning I would go in and we'd sit down. We would just talk like about life or whatever. And I remember sometimes I would just get talking about music and she'd like, Dylan, you're losing me. Like, because I just know so much about it. And so I remember we were sitting and I was running the log for the radio station, which is basically just a list of songs and the little imaging pieces or the commercials, anything that plays in the radio station that's part of your log.
Okay.
And so I was sitting there and I was programming that, and I was talking about, it might have actually been Taylor Swift. It's possible it wasn't, but I was talking about I think it was Taylor Swift because it was the year her album Reputation came out, and I adore that album. But I thought a lot of the singles and the way she kind of marketed it, um, not marketed it because she's a great marketer, but the singles that were released, I just thought were horrible, and I just thought it was kind of a mess in that way. And but that wasn't on her. I think that was more the record label.
Yeah.
But so I was like, I don't understand why this song was done. Like, I think it was probably like "Look What You Made Me Do" or something. I don't remember all the exact details, but she told me, she's like, Dylan, you're really good at radio, but you have such a mind for marketing and promotion, and I really think you need to go and explore that more. And I really think you should be the person in charge of uh like single releases and promoting songs to radio. Like you should be that person that chooses those songs. You could make like a big difference in the industry as a whole. Like you could actually be a part of music history with your brain. And like she said that, and like I said, like she's worked with Beyonce and Mariah Carey and Boys to Men, like, and so she told me that. I'm like, oh my god. Like,
Right. Like, am I going to pass out? Are you going to
yeah,
catch me if I do?
like I remember looking at her, I was like, like really? Like I'm just talking about how I don't understand why this song was released this way and it should have been done this way. And she's like, no, that's exactly what they do. Like, and your brain, like you could do that. And so after I graduated from broadcasting school, I took a few months off and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to go to Full Sail University. When I was in high school, I remember telling people that's where I wanted to go, but like it'll never happen because I was like, I don't want to do online school and I don't want to move to Florida because I've never even been to Florida, and
Oh,
that's
Florida's great.
yeah. So I was like, I probably won't go there, but I would love to. It's like my dream school.
Dude, I feel like don't get me wrong, I love our online classes, but I feel like we would have gotten more being on campus.
Probably, but I think with doing school online like we do, I think you get as much out of it as you put into it,
That's true
and
too.
I feel like even like with us like doing this podcast and like I think we talked about this in our first one, like every a time every like discussion board we have and stuff like that, it's always like me and you, and there's a few others in our class that always do a really good job, but it's always like me and you and those like two or three others that put in effort, and everyone else just kind of, I don't
Skates
know how.
by.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be rude if anyone's listening,
Yeah, sorry
but
guys.
but yeah, like I feel like we put a lot of work into it, so I feel like you and I are getting a lot out of it, where some of those other people, they're just kind of doing it.
So my story about joining Full Sail isn't quite as glamorous as yours. You know, I just told you how I got kind of my brain rolling about the music business idea. Well, I worked at Denny's for 6 years, and I
Mm.
don't know how I managed to do that for so long, but I made
Right.
decent enough money and my schedule worked for me. So I went to London
Mm.
and I came back and I was honestly, you can't say because I never expected to go out of the country like ever.
Right.
And my husband and I worked hard and we made my dream happen and I love him for that. And but I did come back a changed person. And I realized that I didn't want to work a job I hate. I don't want to be in the restaurant industry forever. I don't want to
Hmm.
just sort of sideline be in the music industry. Like I want to be in the industry.
Right.
And so I literally we got back August the 15th and by September 1st I was enrolled to go to Full
Yeah.
Sail. And I quit that job and started a new job November. So like I completely changed my life up like
Wow.
and got my priorities together.
One of my biggest fears is after I graduate from Full Sail, because I don't, I'm not, I've never been the kind of person to take the easy route and settle for anything less than like what I want to do. And I've done a lot of cool things like since graduating high school, or yeah, since graduating high school. But one of my biggest fears is just settling for like restaurant management or something and never living up to my full potential. So I think just that fear, because I know that's not going to happen, but I think that fear of working like in a restaurant my whole life is really what motivates me to be successful in my career. Because I tell people that I work with all the time, and I work at Applebee's, and I actually genuinely love my job. And I don't think it's necessarily the job, but my managers have done a really good job of building this awesome group of people. Like it's the best culture of a workplace I've worked in ever. And so I that kind of scares me in a way because I'm like, am I just going to be comfortable here? And because I do really like the people and I've made some lifelong friends here, am I just going to settle for this because it's easy, or am I going to have the courage to actually leave and go make something of myself?
Right. See, that's me too. I share those same feelings because and it's not really about the job. It's just I've lived in Alabama my whole life.
Right.
So moving and not even like Birmingham, which is the biggest city here. I've lived in small towns, and I feel like it's going to be a very big culture shock when I do move, but I'm ready
Mm-hmm.
for it. I'm excited. Like, I'm ready for the new chapter in my life, whatever it brings. And
Yeah, I told one of my friends who I work with at Applebee's. I told her the other day. I was like, you know what? After I graduate, end of February, beginning of March, I am just going to work every single shift possible, be the best server I can be, make as much money as possible. Then I'm just going to go and move to Nashville or LA. Like I'm just gonna do it.
well, my choices are Atlanta, Nashville, and Seattle.
Seattle.
Yes.
Okay.
I loved Seattle when we went to visit. I swear I stepped off the train into town and I was like, man, this feels like home. My friends like to tell me I'm a hipster and I should just go there anyways because I belong. But
Right. That's funny.
but Atlanta is honestly my first choice because that's where LA Reid is, and that's who I would really, really, really love to work for. I feel like I could learn so much.
Yeah. Oh man, if I would love to work with L.A. Reid. Like, especially because he knows Simon Cowell. So if he could get me to a room with Simon Cowell, that'd be incredible.
I just would like to soak up his brain, but yes, if we could ever meet Simon.
Yeah.
Oh,
As I'm gonna sound just like Zane Lowe from um those Apple podcast interviews that he does. Have you ever watched those?
yeah, yeah, I love
Zane Lowe.
Zane Lowe.
Yeah. I was just about to use one of his lines. As this conversation comes to its natural conclusion, um, I did want to touch quickly, very quickly, on some artists that are inspiring me to keep going. Like that, I see the future of music being handed down to that I am very excited about. So there's a few artists. So do you know the song "Mood" by 24K Golden and Ian
Yes.
Dior? I think those guys, and they've both just had one hit. They're brand new, but I think if they can continue making music like Mood, and I've seen them perform live at different, like they performed at the American Music Awards a few weeks ago. I think if they can continue this kind of momentum, they could be two of the biggest hit makers of the next decade. So artists like that, there's like Lil Nas X and Dua Lipa and the Baby and Conan Gray, who and like Billie Eilish, who I see music being handed down to as like the next generation, and I am genuinely very excited and happy about
Okay. Well, I guess I'll throw my quick little list out there.
it.
Tris Day is definitely on that list. If they will get her music out there, it's over with. It's a
you
wrap.
you know, the more you say that name, the more I feel like I've heard it before. Like it sounds
She goes by
familiar.
Chilled Tris on Instagram.
Okay,
I'll
I
tag you.
okay, I would say it
Um,
just sounds familiar.
Also mulatto, and I feel like we're making a move towards like very like Latin pop is becoming super
Yeah,
popular. So Anita and Rosalia, I
yeah,
love
and
those
I
two.
think you could throw Carol G into
I
that.
was going to. I was going to. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, um, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Alec Benjamin.
Yes, I love Alec Benjamin.
If he doesn't, I'm going to be very disappointed. He is such an incredible songwriter and such an incredible storyteller.
He's going to have to depend on building a younger audience because I played him for my uncle who is about probably 55, 60, and he said, I asked you what you were listening to. I didn't want to hear teeny bop music. And I was like,
Yeah.
but this is what I'm listening to. I love this guy. Would you just listen to Jesus in LA and be quiet?
Oh my God, Jesus in LA is such a good song. Our next podcast will be Dylan just freaking out over every song by Alec Benjamin ever written. Actually, that'd be a fun podcast. Side note, we could pick like an album and do a deep dive, track by track discussion about it.
I'm down.
That'd be so much fun. We will have to talk about that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot of new stars and new music coming up, and so that inspires me because that'll be the generation as we both are about to graduate college with our music business degrees and really start moving into the industry, those will be the artists that are setting the trends and setting the or just setting history. So we are going to be following them. So they have me very excited. Like that guy, 24K Golden, I think he's going to do some big things. I'm very excited.
For sure. I completely agree. He's on my list. Like I've
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Jukebox Junkies. Next week, it sounds like we're going to do an album deep dive.
Yes.
Let us know about any of your personal music influences in your life. We'd love to hear down below.
And if you have any artists that you would like to hear us talk about, if you do like the album breakdown idea, let us know. If you have any albums you'd like to hear us go into depth about, let us know. Maybe we could work those in.
For sure, because we want to talk about what you guys want to hear about.
Absolutely. So I guess until next time, bye everybody.
Love you guys.